Going live. Actual 680 The Fan Studios and making our YouTube debut. We got Josh Bagriansky in front of me, trying to test out, make sure that's working the right way. Josh Bagriansky to my right.
Actually, my name is Joe Patrick.
Josh Bagriansky. Oh my gosh, did I say Josh Bagriansky twice?
Yeah,
Joe Patrick to my right, managing editor of Dirty South Soccer, where you can find all the latest news and notes regarding Atlanta United, the rumor mills, the potential trades, which looks like aren't going to happen at this point. Gentlemen, how goes it?
It's going good.
It goes.
I turned 33 today.
Happy birthday!
Oh, yeah.
I totally forgot to say it on the radio show. Happy birthday!
I made a mental note to say it on our way out on the radio show, and then I totally forgot.
Years young.
Yes.
For the oldest man to record podcasts.
Is that
Josh Bagriansky?
so?
No, it's not.
Does Soccer Down Here count as a podcast? Because I know I got some of those guys.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. You're not even that old compared to some of them.
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
trying to think how old Jason is.
Like
I probably
74.
shouldn't. I don't want to.
No,
I don't want to
kidding.
speculate.
This is rude.
What's up, guys? Again on the YouTube for the first time, and it looks like this is kind of where we're going to be, because this works a hell of a lot easier and better than Facebook.
Smash the like button.
Smash that like button. Hit the subscribe icon. What is it? Is it the bell? Is that what they have to hit?
Man, we are bad at this. I don't know.
What do you hit to subscribe? No, that's not it. That's just
no,
the
just
notification.
Bell is the
there's
notification.
subscribe and there's a bell somewhere.
Breaking news.
More
out.
info in the description
Yeah,
below.
more from the description below.
I just love all the sayings.
Breaking news coming. Well, we were in the middle of the radio show when we found out that Sanya is not going to be joining Atlanta United, which was someone that was rumored to be within talks to join the Five Stripes. That might be the first time I've ever said that.
Can I talk a little bit about this, or can we talk about a little bit about how this rumor kind of came to be? So the initial rumor that came out.
Joe Patrick, managing editor of Dirty South Soccer, go.
I don't remember exactly who the source was, but the original rumor was that Sanya was talking with an MLS club. That was the report, and from there,
his name was just kind of thrown into the
right.
mix,
And I think it was just because we needed a fullback. We needed a fullback. We were an obvious, candidate. And I just feel like a lot of people associate Atlanta United with signing a big player, I guess because we've, I don't know, because we're in first place.
We've done it a few times.
Yeah, we have an internationally known manager or something like that. So we just became the team. And then the reports just all of a sudden became, that he was talking to Atlanta when, unless we hear about a trade that went down for his discovery rights, which usually I think we would get $50K in allocation money for his discovery rights, then we were never in talks with Bakary Sagna because we wouldn't have been allowed to talk to him. The only team that would have been allowed to talk to him would be the Montreal Impact. So that dude on Twitter or on Reddit is wrong.
Oh, you just straight up
I'm straight up calling him out.
I'm straight up calling him out.
Damn. This guy on Reddit is trying to collect gold or whatever it is by saying that he's actually has some source affiliated with the team that's telling him that the two are in talks. That is a bunch of crap.
Well,
he's Atlanta United social media's own MLS transfer.
I will say,
right, exactly.
Dirty South Soccer put out the report that he was in talks because there was a report out there that said that. And when we post something like that, we say that we post saying that there's a report out there that's saying that Sanya is in talks with Atlanta United. We're not saying that we know it. We're not saying that we have a source that's confirming it. We're just saying there's a report that's out there, and that's what really bugs me is that that dude is saying that he has a source in the team and he knows how these talks are going down. It's a bunch of crap.
And just for those that don't know, that dude is a Reddit user who basically came to fame during Barco Watch, right? By
yes.
Essentially compiling the rumors from the internet, putting them in one place, which is very nice. And somehow that turned into having inside sources. And as I think we've seen here, that's proven not to be the case.
That dude, yeah.
Well, it'd be like general conversation and not necessarily conspiracy theories, but just, ideas that branch off of other ideas and things that could be, that he's a good guy to, go check out. But outside of that, there's not a lot of truth to everything he says. I'll put it that way.
Well, he doesn't have a plug like Joe was saying, he's not hearing it directly from Sonya's camp or anything.
But he's portraying it like he is, and that's what really annoys me. He's a fine resource, like he obviously is tapped in online. Like I'm sure he has a bunch of Google alerts set up for that allows him to discover these things.
Screens right next to each other. He's got his tweet deck is like 15 feet long.
Yeah. I mean, but in the end, all it is rumors, like they're not, it's just, but, and again, they're just not portrayed that way. Well, so I have no problem talking about rumors, by the way. Like I said, we put it on this one on Dirty South Soccer, but we kind of, we frame it as just what it is, like that this is just some scuttlebutt that's going around.
People are saying things. This is what they're saying. Is essentially what Dirty South Soccer does.
To kind of dive into the meat of the actual situation, though, I mean, that Atlanta United really need an outside back.
We do.
Especially, we were talking about this before we went on, Joe. I would like to hear what you think, Eric. To me, the need is more so you would like a guy that can play both sides, but to me, the need is more so at right back because Escobar is also your third choice center half. So if Perez or Parkhurst go down, Escobar is probably moving into the middle. So to me, right back needed more so than left back, although you'd like a guy that could play either side.
Well, because we were talking about this on the radio show, but to me, it's left back because if McCann goes down, who do you have to play left back realistically?
Well, that's the quite right. I mean, that's not
right back. I mean, worst case scenario, you could ask Gressel to play right back. There's your stopgap until you find, the next Sal Zizzo.
Mm-hmm. I think, I mean. I'm glad you brought him up. Because this is the exact situation Sal Zizzo was brought in to kind of deter you from. But I'm not faulting Sal Zizzo for getting injured. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that. But he would have been perfect for times like this. Yeah, and he said, during the season that he's a center back and a right back. And then we asked him during the season, like he was playing left back a little bit, I think in preseason, and then maybe there was a game where he came in and played left back a little bit. And we asked him, and he's like, "Yeah, I can play left back." He's like, "I've been playing soccer long enough that I can go in and be a decent left back. I can he's not going to be world beating, but he's not going to kill you." So I think that's kind of what I would like to see as well. I would prefer us to get a guy who's more natural on the right, but is experienced enough where he can just play both sides if needed. Yeah, but the reason I wouldn't want to go with the left back is just for the stuff down the line where it's eventually Garza is going to get healthy. Yeah. So you might have more chance of recovery there. Or on the other side, there's not really anybody.
Do you guys like some trivia? Some fun facts, not trivia. Fun facts.
I do.
We did this on the radio show. I just want to do it again.
More fun facts.
That might have missed it.
Is this Orlando related?
This is Orlando related. So we're going to crap on Orlando for just a split second. It was sent to me by Ben Smith. Well, sent to the podcast. From Ben Smith at Smith72B. Atlanta United has played 58 MLS games and has won 29. Orlando City has played 125 MLS games and have won 38. With 10 games left and a playoff gap could be closed even more this year. And he sent it to a bunch of us in the podcast wars. But
oh God,
how do you have a 2-year head start and we're already caught up to you basically in wins?
Yeah, that's pretty pathetic.
That's not good.
I almost feel like
68 games.
Orlando.
Did you see the game this weekend?
Yeah, I watch every Orlando game. They're
it's pure comedy.
It's unbelievable. The first 2 goals they gave up are unbelievable, and it feels to me almost like I'm just speculating here, but they seem to have gotten. There's like a kind of tense feeling there. It seems like every time I watch them play, the way that they kind of went and signed 6 guys for a bunch of money. It almost feels like Atlanta United has passed them so quickly that they've started grasping at straws and, doing the most expensive trade in MLS history for Dom Dwyer, going and getting all those attacking pieces. It all blows up in your face. The team turns on Jason Christ. It suddenly seems like
the team turns on Jason.
I mean, they're just when you watch them play, it's a very tense situation. I mean, it doesn't look good. It looks very desperate, and it almost feels exactly like they're responding to what happened in Atlanta.
You see fewer and fewer fans at their games. That's what I'm starting to notice. You're starting to see a lot more empty seats.
What's hilarious is to bring in a guy like Joseph Miram for $1 million money, and then 6 months later you're selling him back at a discounted price to the same exact team. That is just embarrassing. That's embarrassing. That's like us sending
Good.
Barco back for like 10 million after a year.
Less than what we paid.
Just like no, we can't do this. Obviously, you know, I'm not saying that that's something that would happen. By the way, like obviously, there's just a different culture in the clubs, and the culture was so bad in Orlando that Miriam was the one who was like, "I got to get out of here. I want out of here." The fans had totally turned on him, which is just hilarious. It's just so funny. I love.
They got to be to turn on players like that. Like I can't imagine. And then again, we don't have history, so we can't say what we would have done or would do in that situation because we never experienced it. But I can't imagine the entire Atlanta United fan base would turn on one player for Atlanta United for any. Well, I guess Barco, if that were a little more intense, maybe.
Even Barco got a fine reception at the All-Star game. I think the Atlanta supporters will get behind Barco and try to build him back up.
Me too.
Speaking of Barco, he obviously didn't play against Toronto FC. There's a 2-week break. And we'll talk about the game in a second. 2-week break before we see him play Columbus. Do we think we see him back in that game? Do we have any indication that he's going to be, back on the field, back in the good graces of everyone, in order to, just get back on the field?
There's no indication yet. Obviously, we probably won't know until the Thursday before the game when Tata Martino usually talks to media before training. Maybe because there's a 2-week break here that's kind of like a long break to kind of, finally get yourself back in the rotation. It's so difficult to say. I will say if he is back, I don't think he starts. Like, I don't think he probably will come back. Actually,
we had a long discussion about this.
I've thought about this both ways. I guess I keep on going back and forth on it. My one part of me says that he should come back in the lineup. If you think that he gives you the best chance to win a game, I think that he should be back in the starting lineup because I don't think that it should be a punishment where, like, you're sort of back, like we're sort of accepting you back. It has to either be like
you're all in,
not
or you're all out,
or you're in. Yeah, you're in or you're not. And if you're in, then you need to be in a position where you're going to help the team win. You're back involved. So, but I don't know. I go back and forth on it.
If he's not in the first 11 when he's involved again, you would have to assume has nothing to do with disciplinary measures anymore. It would have to do with just that he doesn't have a ton of match fitness and sharpness yet. Right. So you want to ease him back in. But it wouldn't make any sense at all to say, well, your suspension's over, but I'm going to put you on the bench. No one's going to buy that.
Yeah.
But I could see that just, he will have missed basically a month by the time the Columbus match happens on, 2 Sundays from now.
The 19th of August.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, I would say no, but that's just a hunch by me that he will not play. That's just my hunch.
not that I'm going to get one, not that we're going to get one. I just like a progress report. Like how.
Right. Yeah. I know.
Like,
ideally, yeah, you would like.
How long is this going to go?
I think that's the thing that has driven fans the most nuts about this whole thing is that there's no definitive. It's not like what he did. People just want to know, like how long, when is he coming back?
He's good. We want him on the field. He's good. But how much do you guys think the team has actually missed him over these 3 matches?
Not much at all.
To me, I haven't really noticed much of a difference. Obviously, we all wanted to be reintegrated. Such a fantastic player, but the team has made Tata's kind of. I don't know if you want to say that. I guess the third match suspension was all Tata's decision, right? I mean, the first 2 was team implemented. The third one was basically all Tata.
That's correct. Yeah.
So the team playing well has made his job a little easier because there is no reason to rush Barco back because you look pretty good without him, especially going forward.
Right. And I do want to give Tata credit saying, I understand what you're saying, Josh. Tata has also said, he would never take soccer into account when making this decision on whether he should come back. Like he's not looking. I forget. He had a great quote about it after the game. I'll see if I can.
A lot of great quotes.
He did. He was as fiery as I've ever seen him. You're a shame you weren't there, Eric, to hear him. I've been staying for the Spanish language, and I felt like I could tell what he's saying, even though I didn't understand an actual word. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was in Charleston, bachelor weekend party thingamabobber. I saw the game on TV, and I heard the press conference through Twitter, and I only heard a part of basically when he was asked by the Spanish media if he was concerned at all, because again they've been asking him this every week for the past 2 or 3 weeks. Is he concerned that Joseph is the one that's scoring all the goals? And they'll ask him in different ways, and I mean it's almost like when he was being asked about Argentina during the World Cup.
Yeah.
He hated that.
Yeah.
You can tell he hated that. he didn't want to give you an opinion because he didn't really have one. He just wanted to go watch the game, celebrate if they won, and get going. It's sort of being treated like this, where he doesn't want to talk about Joseph being the only one that scored because of, and basically threw the question back in the reporter's face, saying, "Tell me how they're scoring these goals. It's not that magically the ball appears and there's Joseph and boom, he scores. There's a lot of work being done around Joseph to open up some space for him, to get him the ball to begin with. You see he's got 26 goals, 24 of them are 26 to the 24, no, 24 to 26 come off assists or have assists attached to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that means Tito's doing good work. That means Gressel's doing good work. That means Almiron's doing good work as much as he seems to miss the easiest goals of all time, sometimes. But all that work surrounding those goals is really what eases Tata's mind, because it could easily be anyone else in Joseph's position. It just happens to be Joseph all the time. And I think in the sense that it could be Joseph just seems to, again, like a good striker, have a knack for putting himself in good positions. It could be that Tito has a couple games that go, and he goes on a run just like Joseph has. When you play the way Atlanta United plays around, in a way to sort of feed Joseph, sort of get him as involved into the game as you can, that's just what's going to happen. He's going to score most goals. He made a really good correlation to how Barcelona work with Messi and Luis Suarez.
Yeah, it's like, Messi is set up to score 40 goals a season, and you can't really stop it because he's just, as Tata would say, in such a good condition to do that, right? Like, if you drop Lionel Messi into Crystal Palace as team, he's going to make them better, et cetera, but he's not going to be scoring 40 goals. Right. And same thing with Joseph Martinez. You drop him into another team, he's going to improve them. He's going to make them a better team. He's not going to be breaking goal scoring records, most likely. It's because Atlanta sets him up to be in those positions.
Let's talk about Joseph real quick. Obviously, 2 goals against Toronto FC, 26 goals overall in this season. He's 1 away from tying the season's single season goal scoring record. Brandon Bowman on YouTube saying that he wants him to tie against the Crew and set the record in Orlando,
that would be nice.
Probably be pretty cool.
Be really cool.
But I doubt he's just going to score 1 if he does score in either match.
He's going to be
going
for glory.
Well, if it's not broken by Orlando, I think that's a game to break it. We've already discussed their defensive issues.
What's the I guess the benchmark for you guys? What do you think he gets to?
I still just don't. I don't think he maintains a goal a game, but that's just me thinking this can't continue. But it just keeps continuing. So what do I know?
Did you hear what Tata said when one of our colleagues, Patient Schwinn, asked if he would rest him at towards the end of the season? And Tata Martino gave Payson the craziest look, like he was nuts. And he goes, he'll rest on December 10th, which is the day after MLS Cup
He'll rest
final.
On December 10th.
He's like, no. I did want to go, speaking of the press conference, I did want to go back and talk about Barco before we kind of move on from this. Tata, this is the translation from Gustavo Rodriguez. He said, I know this is soccer and we must win, but I did not do this because I'm nuts. Just funny. There's an Atlanta United culture we want to instill, a lifestyle our club embraces that we like to be observed, that leads us beyond results. If by taking chances in a weekend outcome, I can't. If by taking my chances in a weekend outcome, I can't take actions for this. Anyways, he just goes on to say, that's enough because I can't read and talk out loud. But yeah, he's basically, it was good stuff. Go to Gustavo Rodriguez, go follow him. He gives good translations from Tata's press conferences.
It's just funny to see him. Again, I feel like Tata is everyone's dad. Like, he's going to make decisions for the that's best for the family, whether we're going to like it or not.
They call him El Tata, right?
Tata.
I mean, he is definitely a father figure of sorts. I don't know if that's kind of a literal translation, but certainly he's. Look at how he's handled the Barco situation.
Yeah, just like a dad would.
And I don't
look
know.
Get grounded. Yeah, until you prove to me that
because in his head, I bet he just wants him to play. If it was up to him, but you got to be the role model.
In the end of his response there, he actually starts mentioning specific teams. I don't know if this is a slip of the tongue, but he said, I don't mind him not playing against Toronto, Montreal, or Columbus, which is the next team that they play. So I don't know if he would.
So he's probably out against Columbus.
I don't know if he meant to say whoever it was, because he's already missed 3 games. He mentioned 3 teams. He's missed 3 games. I don't know if he meant to say one of the teams they'd already played, or if he intentionally was talking about the next team. But yeah,
interesting.
That is interesting.
It sounds like the Spanish portion of the press conferences are a bit livelier.
They're they don't hold back as much as, and no offense to everyone that covers the English speaking.
Of course
no.
You what? What are you saying?
I'm not trying to offend any of the English speaking, but we're a little more careful with what we ask him and how we ask him. I think Doug Robertson does a good job asking him tough questions when he has to. But I mean, it's not like we've held back. I've asked him about decisions he's made, when it comes to subs, tactically, how stuff ends up happening during games. Stuff like that. I mean,
but I think it's more the tenor in which they ask.
Yeah.
They'll be like, "Why didn't you do this?" Or
it's the constant ask, and the way the Spanish media kind of does things is it's a lot more conversational. So whereas the English media will just ask a question and Tata responds, the Spanish media it's more of a conversation. It's Tata will make a point, and in that point, he'll be interrupted by a reporter,
right,
who wants to elaborate on what he just said. And it's more of a dinner conversation as opposed to a question-answer sort of series.
Like when I'm asking a question, or when we're doing the English portion, like usually it's you ask the question, and then like immediately after you ask, like while you're kind of listening to the response or you're waiting for Justin to translate the question, you're kind of like passing the mic along to whoever else is next. Those guys, the Spanish media, like have it in their hand. It's like their moment to have a conversation with them, like as you said.
It reminds me of the World Cup press conference where the Spanish media in Spain was talking to Griezmann, and the guy uses Google Translate in French, to ask him the question. It definitely, it's a different kind of culture.
No, seriously, it's night and day the way that Tata. You can see Tata as soon as Chris or whoever switches over to English. He sometimes lays back in his chair a little bit, he relaxes a little bit because it's going to be much more of a conversation. But I think it's not that he doesn't.
It's just different. Tenor, like
it's not that he doesn't like it. I think he enjoys that because he can again have much more a better conversation with you.
Yeah.
As opposed to one answering an English question in Spanish and then waiting for Justin to translate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which Justin, fantastic. Justin's great. If you're listening, fantastic. And that's a hard job. All right, let's talk about Toronto FC. 2-2 draw. 2 goals from Joseph. 1 goal from Giovinco, and the other one from Toussaint Ricketts. And guys, the 2 goals that are conceded by Atlanta United happen in stoppage time
of each half.
Mm-hmm. You've got a defensive breakdown in which LGP kicks the ball a little too far from
the first
basically
goal,
too far out of his control.
I don't know what he was doing.
It's recovered by was it Giovinco who finds it wasn't Giovinco, whoever it was, finds Altidore. Altidore passes it out wide. The ensuing pass goes to Giovinco for an easy. He doesn't even get a good touch on it, but it finds its way into the goal. You look at that play and you look at everyone around Giovinco, and it's Michael Parkhurst. I think it's LGP. It's
he's right in between Laurentowicz and Parkhurst.
Yeah. It was clearly Parkhurst's guy, and he just lost him. He did not see the run inside. I don't know how you leave that much of a gap right in the middle of the box, especially when you know what's going to happen. He's going to do one of 2 things: either shoot at a very acute angle, or he's going to pass it back into the middle of the box.
Yeah. It's amazing that
you've got one covered with Guzan.
This was a match that Atlanta United dominated in every facet, yet we're going to spend most of our time talking about these 2 defensive breakdowns at the end of each half. And you start to bring up some of the things that led to the first goal, Eric. It was almost as if the team was – there was 1 minute of stoppage time. I think you're about 30, 40 seconds into that minute of stoppage time. It almost seemed as if the team had 1 foot in the dressing room already for the halftime break, because the mistakes made, obviously, Perez's touch to give the ball away doesn't make any sense at any time, but especially the last moments of stoppage time, where even if you pull off that dribble, the half's over anyway, so it's not worth it. And then also if you watch it back, Parkhurst and Laurentowicz have plenty of time to get tight to Giovinco, and it was almost as if the team had mentally switched off there in those final seconds and then suddenly had to switch back on, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah, it didn't look good. You watch the second goal, and it looks pretty similar. Giovinco's got the ball right outside the 18, puts in a good pass to Osorio, who I think one touches it to Saint across the box. Yeah. LGP can't react fast enough. Gressel kind of stuck in no man's land. Vasquez takes a step off his man to go close down on Giovinco before the pass, and that kind of opens up that room for Giovinco to play into. If Gressel had been the one to step up to Giovinco, that pass I don't think is ever made. And we're talking about a completely different game. We're talking about 3 points instead of 1, and Vasquez doesn't look like a dummy.
There's a few things that could have happened. I think what the plan would have been for Vasquez to stay with Osorio, Gressel stay where he is, and Laurentowicz get there a little bit earlier. And that was another frustrating part of that second goal, was you had just moved Jeff Laurentowicz into defensive midfield to basically prevent those exact type of situations from happening. But even so, if you look at Laurentowicz is getting there a little bit late, but he's forcing Giovinco onto his weak foot, onto his left, away from goal. So when Vasquez steps, it suddenly allows Giovinco to cut back inside and slot that through ball through. If he doesn't do that, then you're just seeing Giovinco probably just dribble towards the left without an available
or pass
ball.
It out wide or something like that.
Unbelievable fundamental mistake from Brandon Vasquez. And you've got to believe that based on where he was positioned on the field, that Martino had just told him, don't get caught ball watching, stay with those runners out wide.
Yeah.
And within seconds of coming on, he makes that exact error, and then the ball's in the back of the net.
Yeah, and this is one of the areas where you look at the depth at fullback and you realize you don't really have any at this point. Whereas instead of putting in Vasquez, maybe you're thinking about putting in someone who is a little more defensive minded, someone who understands stay with your man, let someone else close down on the ball, stuff like that. Brandon Vasquez isn't that player. He's an attacking player who's
we saw him as when he first started playing, we were seeing him off the benches in the number 9 spot.
Yeah.
And then we started to see him on the wing. So he's not a defensive winger in any way. And you know who is? Julian Gressel.
Yeah.
If you have a right back you can bring off the bench, Gressel is in that spot where Vasquez is. So, to me, it was kind of a weird substitution, honestly, the mistake that Vasquez made is solely on him. I don't think you can get on Tata for that.
To me, talking just like more generally, less specifically tactically, I would just like to see the team not be playing so deep. I just don't think they're comfortable playing that deep. They don't know how to do it. Like, it's not like just sitting in a deeper position automatically makes you more difficult to score against. Like, as soon as we made those changes, they had 2 great chances. Giovinco hit the bar on one that could have easily been a goal. I just don't think we play well that way. We play well when our players are trained to close the ball down and to not give the opponent time on the ball. I just think that we need to stick to that.
See, I agree with you. The only thing is that these subs don't allow you to do that as well as you could before, for obvious reasons. On the wing, you don't have a player as good as Villalba, especially when it comes to Brandon Vasquez. On the left, who came in for?
McCann stayed on the left.
Obviously, you don't have the same kind of output when it comes to switching Romario for Joseph. So up top, at that point, you're left with basically Almiron. Romario can do some things here and there, but for the most part, he's not a crazy reliable.
We see the Romario sub kind of consistently for Joseph. Almiron goes up top because he's usually run himself into the ground. And he got a breakaway. He got a 1v1, so it worked out. Romario plays a little deeper and comes back and defends set pieces. So that's kind of a defensive-ish substitution.
What I see is that those guys are looking to go towards goal as soon as they get the ball. They're not looking at circulating the ball. They're not looking at what's best for the team right now. Those guys are still, in my opinion, I think this is Brandon Vasquez, for example. This is an example of what I'm about to say, is that they're looking at more, I'm trying to show up for my team. I'm trying to look good. I'm trying to improve.
Yeah.
Someone that steps up to Giovinco, going to try to get the ball off and maybe go the other way, start something. As opposed to sticking with his man, let Gressel mine that space, and maybe you don't get this ball to Osorio.
And Tata had a quote after the game where he didn't name anyone specifically.
Oh, no, he called out the subs, though, yeah.
He said that he wanted his substitutes to be a little more proactive when they came into the match. To me...
and what does that mean exactly? Does that mean he wants them to do what they're telling him?
To me, that's talking
right.
directly to Brandon Vasquez. Because honestly, Laurentowicz, who was partly to blame on that goal, was not a substitute. Maybe he was saying, I moved you to defensive mid, Laurentowicz, why don't you... go after it there the way you were previously. But Robinson, who comes on, didn't really make any errors. Romario didn't make any errors. Vasquez makes an error. So to me, that quote is almost directly him saying he's frustrated with Vasquez because he will have just told him, don't make this mistake. And he makes it right away. So to me, that quote he had after, I don't know if you guys have it verbatim, but basically saying, I want my substitutes to come out and attack.
There was a specific phrase. It was foaming at the mouth.
Right. And you kind of saw Vasquez do like the worst of both, where he didn't, even if he stepped to the ball there, you would want to see him commit and press, but he kind of just does neither. He kind of takes a couple steps towards it, leaves the gap there.
I'll say I even saw it with Romario. There was one specific time where I remember him, he had the ball at his feet and he turned, for some reason, he turned inside, like towards the inside, and tried to like take a guy one-on-one, took a big heavy touch and lost possession of the ball when it was a great opportunity for him to slow the game down.
Yeah, I was going to say, how much time was left on the clock right at this point?
I'm not sure, but
it's not much time. Yeah,
right.
So, it's a chance for you to, defensively, for you guys to organize yourself a little better, control the ball, take some time off the clock, take some air out of the Toronto balloon at that point.
And this is where Tata talked after the game about how his team lacks that experience. They lack that knowledge of how to. It's not like dirty, but it's just like it's like a professional thing in soccer. It's a way to professionally finish a game, and cynically a little bit. It's wasting time. It's like doing these little things, fouling even, just to like stop the play, break up the play, let yourself organize. It's these kinds of things that I think these subs, they're young players. They, like you said, they want to show up well. They don't want to look like they're coming on and just like, fouling people and playing poorly. So it's a tough situation.
And we did see, I think, Romario Williams, kind of to Eric's point earlier about players trying to stand out individually to prove themselves. I thought we saw him a couple of times over elaborate on the ball when, if you look at it, you've got pace up top in Almiron. You've got pace up there with Villalba until the 90th minute. So a lot of times you get the ball, you've got an option to just go direct and play in behind, as we saw Almiron get in behind. And instead, you kind of get caught on the ball over elaborating when maybe you can just play a little direct and score on the counter.
Yeah, and Michael Ruiz says in the chat, why even take Joseph out at that point? I will just say, Tata said after the game that he saw Joseph rubbing his leg in a place where he had an injury before. I assume that means it's quad, where he had that bad quad strain. So at that point, regardless of how much rest time you have afterwards,
pull him out.
You can't take that risk. So he just had to come out.
And I think,
but he's fine, by the way.
In some ways, I think he might have made that substitution anyway, but maybe like 5 minutes later. In some ways, Almiron, for what we just described, where a team is pressing high, they're leaving, taking all chances out of the back. You almost want a player like Almiron over Joseph that you can just play over the top and can run onto it. Joseph, not really that type of player.
I would like, in these situations, I'd like to see. I just don't want to see Almiron being by himself, essentially. I know he's got Romario. I know he's got technically Vasquez, McCann, whatever. He's essentially, when he gets the ball, he's going to turn. He's essentially going to be by himself. If you put someone else there that's technically skilled and fast, either Villalba, Barco when he gets back, you assume that at that point, if Almiron is in that position where he's basically going straight to keeper, Joseph is off the field, but keep one of those other outlets in the match so that he can play off of someone, so that someone that basically plays to his speed, that can help him out. Otherwise, it's. And look, I think we can get into this discussion, but I think that one of the big solutions to defensive breakdowns or to not having depth at fullback or to questioning the subs is finish your chances, and we're not talking about this.
Right.
You look at the number of chances, the couple of chances Joseph has, and fantastic job by Bono. You had moments where you could have put this game away. Almiron at the end, Almiron at the beginning of the match.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't get much easier for you than that, especially when, against a team like Toronto where they're capable of coming back on you. They're capable of scoring. They just haven't found it this season for whatever reason.
And I think that's what we've overlooked in all this rehashing of like what went wrong. To me, some of those missed chances are just as bad as what happened in the 88th minute or whatever when they scored. Like, you have to put away those chances. I mean, they're as good as goal. Like, they're goals. Like, they change games.
One of the things that Carlos Bocanegra said when this team was first being formed was that we're going to score a lot of goals. We might get scored on a lot. Mm-hmm. We're getting scored on not a lot, but quite a bit.
Like every game. We're not like keeping clean sheets.
Exactly. So the solution in a lot of people's minds in the front office for Atlanta United, it very simplistically is we're going to outscore our opponent. That hasn't, I guess, happened as consistently as I'd like in these type of games. So that's where that to me is the solution. Yeah, sure. They effed up when it came to defending in those last 5 minutes, but the solution was there for you 30 minutes before that.
I mean, I agree, but I think it's a combination of both because Atlanta United still are scoring plenty of goals this season.
I'm not saying they're not. I'm not saying
it could have been more. The reality is that there are going to be games like this, especially in the postseason, where you're going to be holding on to a goal lead late, or you're trying to see out the first leg of a tie or something like that. And we have seen a clear trend with Atlanta United conceding late goals, basically when they're trying to do exactly what we've been talking about, trying to drop into a shell and play defensively. And you see these breakdowns. You saw it in Dallas. You saw it in New England. So I do think that, yes, the MO is to go out there and score 3-4 goals. But there has to be an understanding that that's just not going to happen night in and night out, and especially in the postseason. So we need to see better. I mean, we need to see this team find a way to close out matches better, whether it be dropping defensively into a shell or, sticking to our guns and pressing and continuing to attack. Either way, it's 3 matches this year Atlanta United have conceded, dropped points in the 86th minute or later, 5 by conceding in the 73rd minute or later, which is easily the highest of those types of numbers among the contenders for the supporters sheet.
FC Dallas, Toronto FC. Who was the other one?
New
England?
Yes, in New England.
Okay.
In New England.
That was the PK, right?
Mm-hmm.
The penalties.
PK.
And then NYCFC is one where Alexander Ring, I think, scores in the 76th or 77th, and then I'm
that game we were lucky not to have conceded.
Right. And honestly, at that point, like, look, 73rd minute, you're still playing pretty much as normal as you can possibly be playing. But 73rd or 76th, what'd you say?
It was like 75th.
Really, it doesn't matter.
Minute.
Up until about the 85th minute, I'm probably going to try to play that game as normally as I can.
There's 2 in particular that to me that stand out. This Toronto one, the Dallas one. They have clear similarities between the two that are like, they correlate to one another, right? Like some of these other games, like you have a Alex Ring screamer, shot, like some you have a Kevin Kratz penalty. You can't legislate for some of those things, but like, these 2 in particular, we had a lead late, adding defensive subs at the end of the game. That's where this team needs to improve.
And when I look at our defense, I don't see the types of weak personnel for there to be an excuse for this to be happening, other than just mental breakdowns. I don't even if you're putting a young kid like Brandon Vasquez in a tough situation, like we were saying, that 11, that back line, Laurentowicz and Remedi playing center defensive midfield over the last 5 minutes against Toronto, that should have been more than enough to see out the match. And I think the defense has actually played pretty well this season. It's just, for whatever reason, it's these specific types of scenarios, these set pieces. I think they've struggled a little bit defending the counterattack. There are certain things they need to work on, but certainly if you look at defensively, I think we're miles ahead of than where we were this time last year.
Yeah, we're definitely nitpicking this too.
Exactly.
We're in first place. Obviously, things are going well.
People have to say you're nitpicking, because the expectation is to win MLS Cup.
Right.
So a nitpicking,
really, the expectation
nitpick can cost you the title.
The expectation, if you want to simplify even that, is to win a playoff game. Because no, not to say that we're not aiming for MLS Cup, but the scenarios you're finding yourself in against teams like Toronto, against teams like FC Dallas, those are very much playoff scenarios where you are up by 1 or you're level and you're trying to see out the game to get the extra time or to close out the win. That's exactly what's going to happen when you go up against better quality teams.
Yeah.
And this is just a prediction based on nothing, but I would say that I think that it's a good thing these things are happening now. You're figuring out the players you can count on bringing off the bench in these situations. And I would guess that come playoff time, this is much less of an issue than it is now. But, we'll have our answer over the next 10 matches.
And you really didn't lose a lot when it comes to the ground Atlanta United has in the Supporter Shield race and the lead in the East. You got Red Bulls who won, who are 44 points. NYC FC lost or drew to Vancouver?
They drew.
Late draw.
They drew.
Okay.
It was a late draw, just like us.
You got FC Dallas who lost to San Jose. So they haven't gained any ground, which was amazing.
Was that San Jose's first win against a non-Minnesota side in
over 300 days? Yeah.
Third win altogether in the league.
Wow.
That's got to be.
And that's one of the teams Atlanta United will be playing
have them on the schedule
over these last 10 matches.
So yeah, it was. Look, if it's going to happen any weekend, that would have been a good weekend for it to happen in. Just because a lot of the teams around you didn't really gain much ground. You still got a 4-point lead on the Supporter Shield, 4-point lead in the East. You're going to a two-week break, so it looks like some of these teams are going to have a chance maybe to play a couple games that they're
the matches in hand.
The matches in hand, yeah. And then you got to go to Columbus. And Columbus, at that point, because some of these games in hand are going to be played, you got to look at Columbus Crew as a not necessarily must win, but it's going to hurt if you don't.
It's a match where you can make a statement. I mean, it's again nitpicking, but Atlanta United haven't performed exceptionally well against the top teams yet this season. Columbus may be a small cut below that, but still a very strong team. Obviously, knocked you out of the postseason last year, so that's an important match because after that you go Orlando, DC, Colorado, San Jose, RSL. So if you go win all 5 of those matches, people will still be saying, well, you couldn't get a result against Columbus. You couldn't get the results against their New York side, which is true. Yeah. So this is almost your last chance for like a 6-week period to say, okay, no, these teams come to Mercedes-Benz and we're going to beat them. So that becomes kind of a critical fixture, I think, for the team's psyche.
I still wish they would have sold Will Trapp and Zach Steffen to Blackburn Rovers.
That would have been nice. Yeah. Were you guys mad at Zach Steffen not saving any penalties in the All-Star game?
Yeah,
thanks, dude.
That was brutal. A little,
in the exact same.
I really thought the same. I remember thinking, man, he's gonna what he did to Atlanta. He's gonna stuff him in this building. Yeah. Nope. Not one.
In the exact. I want to ask you guys a question. Kind of put your fan hats on here for a second. Take your elitist media hats off for a second.
Hey man, you're part of the club. Remember?
League media. League media. That's right. As we've discussed. How much do you guys care about the Supporter Shield as fans? Because I know it's big. I'm having trouble getting myself really psyched up for it. Like to me, it's all about MLS Cup. But I've seen the way teams have reacted when they won the
secondary
Shield.
one for me.
But Supporter Shield automatically go to CONCACAF or no? Or
Champions
no,
League?
Usually they do, but not this year because this year there's a 2-year.
But if we were to win Supporter Shield, we would by default be at the top of those 2-year standings, correct? And we would go.
Yeah, but if New York City's only like 1 point behind us, then they would go. Because I think we have to beat them by 2 points.
That's why I was trying to figure out exactly what it was. But that's why I want them to win Supporter Shield, so that we can go to CONCACAF Champions League.
It'll probably happen. But I
hope. Fingers crossed. Now that you say it.
MLS Cup champ goes to CONCACAF Champions League, though.
Yeah.
So right.
Yeah.
And CONCACAF Champions I'm sorry, MLS Cup, it's just like a bigger event. It's just like it's more of like a national talking point. When you're
and plus,
as a fan, when you win Supporter Shield, it's still like, the media is still like gearing up for the playoffs at that point. It's a very short news cycle of you winning it, of you accomplishing it. I think it's the more difficult thing to win, obviously, because it's over a much longer period of time. You have to show you were consistently good. But I think, like, for me as a fan, just like what gets my juices flowing, it would be MLS Cup for sure. It's just
since we're not really single entity since we are not single table, sorry.
Single entity.
Since we're
pro rel.
Since we're really not single table. Never mind. You guys know what I'm trying to say.
It would be great to win the Supporter Shield and then go to MLS Cup final, at least even if we don't win it, because that would mean it would be in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. And that would be cool to have like all the national media basically descending again on Atlanta again.
It's a trophy. Look, I want it to happen, but it's like U.S. Open Cup. If it doesn't, I'm not going to go crazy, but I do want it to happen.
I mean, I look at Toronto 2 years ago having that incredible season and then losing to Seattle in the final. FC Dallas won it a few years ago, and I think went out immediately in the playoffs. Obviously, they had the first round bye. So, I mean, it's almost like if you win the Supporters' Shield and don't win MLS Cup, you almost become a kind of a footnote, kind of like a trivia question.
You become New York Red Bulls.
You become the New York Red Bulls. Yeah, exactly.
But it's still a feat when you look at the regular season and what you were able to do. It's still, a tremendous feat. It's a trophy you can put in your trophy case. It'd be the first one for Atlanta United. Is that right? Didn't they win?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, that would be cool. That'd be cool.
Didn't they win something else? Did they try to?
Did we win the Charleston Cup ever?
No.
Or anything like that?
Yeah, maybe.
No, did we?
It'd be cool to have. It'd be cool to. They would celebrate it. They would have a trophy celebration.
The front office claims that something is the first trophy. I forget what it is. I just know that they try to.
Was it like when Andrew Carleton played the?
Maybe that's it. I don't know. I thought I heard that somewhere. Never mind.
Played Rangers,
but we all understand that this would be the first Atlanta United trophy.
And I'm sure if it's if all 3 or 4 of these teams.
Did they count? Did they count? I bet they count that the Academy Championship.
That's what I was thinking
last year.
The Academy one.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking I think as a fan, there are 2-3 fixtures left. All these teams are neck and neck. Then I'll probably get into it a bit.
Yeah.
If it lasts all the way through, it'll be a big deal if it lasts all the way through.
The key is getting a bye, honestly.
Yeah.
That's really the key is getting a top 2 spot. Because I've never found there's a huge difference in those kind of 3, 4, 5, 6 teams. Sometimes maybe the 3rd seed or something like that. But to me, there's not a huge gap usually between that next run of teams in the playoffs. So 1st seed, 2nd seed.
And I also think the Supporters' Shield winner this year will probably set the MLS points record that Toronto set last year. So that'd be kind of cool to break as well.
All right. Let me see what else we got to talk about. Where's my list? Eric Rometty. Well, should we talk about? I guess we kind of already talked about Almiron. Eric Rometty.
Thoughts.
No, but he has I think it was Taylor Twellman who said on the broadcast and with Toronto, Atlanta, talked about how he was more of an upgrade than I think people realize to Carmona.
For sure.
I agree with that.
And I'm on board.
He's already kind of surpassed my expectations. And one thing we mentioned, just kind of, we hadn't seen him play, but we were looking at him statistically and saying, he averages over 1 dribble a match. So you're imagining he's better on the ball, better technically than Carmona, and he is. I mean,
absolutely. And you know it from the second you start watching.
Yeah, he's so smooth on the ball. One thing I also noticed with him is he's at ball hawking center mid straight up. If the ball's out wide, he's going to go over. And there's probably a reason you're probably going to see him paired with Laurentowicz a lot this season, who's more likely to just sit. Right. But Rometty is such a ball hawk, ball winner. I mean, he's pressing guys wide, he's pressing guys up high. And then when he wins it, he has the technical ability to then start the attack, whereas Carmona was more of just, okay, I've got it. Now I'm going to play simple. Right. I think we mentioned this. Yeah. Laurentowicz and Carmona did not complete a single dribble between them last season, which is incredible. You would just think accidentally one would have completed a dribble. Now you have a guy that can win the ball back and create going forward immediately thereafter.
You look at what he did in the build up to the PK on Joseph, and that was all Rometty.
Yeah,
he's instrumental in getting the whole thing going, and that's not something you really saw out of Carmona. Not to say Carmona wasn't good. Carmona I thought was fantastic.
Fantastic, yeah. But he was just a more mobile version of Laurentowicz.
Yeah, this is a different kind of fantastic forward.
He played the ball simple. Yeah, he was a short distributor of the ball. Remedy, it's amazing to see what he's doing, and like you said, I'm surprised at how fast he's integrating into the team. How much he's already being used, and I mean, it's just the tip of the iceberg for him. Like, he's only a few games into his career, and we're already seeing into his Atlanta United career. We're already seeing his performance out of him. I'm excited to see him again because I don't think he's facing a team that's like all out attack like Atlanta United is. Yeah.
I'm excited to see a team that'll spread the field with Atlanta United for the entire 90 minutes or for whatever 70, 80 minutes of it. And I want to see Rometty ping Villalba, ping Gressel, ping whoever, ping Joseph, ping Almiron long and watch him run onto balls.
He's a guy I imagine we see.
That's what I'm waiting to see.
We see in that gold chain stat a lot that basically distracts. Yeah. How often did you get a touch in the lead up to a goal? He's a guy I see being very, very high on that chart. And, what's interesting, I think the reason he's slotted in so well right away is not just because he's clearly a good player, but also because, and we've talked about this all year, he's the exact type of player that Atlanta United needed. Even with a healthy Darlington Nagbe, I think you need another defensive-minded center defensive mid because Laurentowicz is previously to this your only true 6. Now, not only do you have another defensive midfielder, but you have a defensive midfielder that does the things that Laurentowicz doesn't do. Chases the ball around, ball hawk, good technical. So not only is the position we needed, he's a perfect pairing next to Jeff Laurentowicz. And I think that's the reason he's slotted in so beautifully right away is what he does is exactly what Atlanta United needed.
And we've jokingly called him thick fielder since he's come in.
Yes,
kind of given him that nickname. We saw him. He was in the press scrum after the game, and he had his his socks pulled down, just to like ankle height. The guy had like veins popping out of his legs, like on his shins and stuff. Like
some Shaqiri calves.
Yeah. It was incredible. It was incredible.
Speaking of Carlos,
not very thick.
Speaking of Carlos Carmona, he just scored for Colo-Colo.
Did he really?
Good for him.
So
good for him.
Rest in peace.
Did he score an own goal like the second week he was there?
Oh, did he? I don't know. I have no idea.
I remember seeing something about him scoring an own goal.
I know. I saw his baby was born, so congratulations to him.
Good for him. I heard it. Never mind.
Tell it.
No, sometimes these things just should stay in your brain. So the thing I was going to get to when it comes to Almiron, and it's something that has been bugging me for a while because it's not that he doesn't produce. It's not that he doesn't contribute to this team because he absolutely does. He's half the reason Joseph is, or at least a third of the reason Joseph is as successful as he's been. But these misses
from Almiron,
or these shots from distance that are clearly not going in, or these attempts just outside the box.
What's the stat, Joe? I mean, it's
not great.
His actual goals compared to his expected goal rate is like, I think the greatest differential in the entire league.
Basically the worst finisher in the league based on how much he would be expected to score versus what he's actually scored.
And you looked at that list.
He's expected to have scored over 14 goals at this point,
right?
Which is just incredible to think about, like that you have Joseph already on this goal-scoring tear. And I mean, Joseph's overperforming his XG, but he still has quite a bit, and Almiron's right there as well. But yeah, it's not good. It's much worse than like last year. He overperformed by about a goal, which is within the margin of error for these types of things. Like he was basically doing what he was expected to do last year. This year is just been.
And it's not that he's playing bad. It's just that in these moments where he's 1v1, like Toronto, for example, the moments he does have, that are his. I'm trying to think of a proper way to say it, but. These moments that are his, that it's only going to be him that's scoring the goal. If they score, he's coming up short. He's great in building up and getting Villalba and Joseph and Gressel and everyone involved.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems that in the final third or in the box when his number is called, he is not. And again, nothing has to change. He just has to find a way to put those balls away. At least some of them.
And this is why
a couple of
when we talk about him playing at the next level, I don't think he's playing as like a traditional number 10 or playing in like a role where he's going to be in these positions for a team in Europe. Like I think he's going to be more of a box-to-box transition type, or maybe he is playing as the most attacking central midfielder, but he's playing in a team that just plays in a more defensive way, and he's able to, create by stretching his legs.
Which actually,
on the break.
In some ways, makes him more of a modern number 10 in that you do expect that player to go box to box. But again, I mean, you look at that stat we just said. I mean, 9 goals compared to expected 14 plus. And then look at the last 2 matches Atlanta United dropped points in. Obviously, Toronto, and then you go back to the Seattle match. Both of those matches, Seattle match, he has the biggest chance to win it in the last 10, where Romario squares it back and he skies it over the goal. And then obviously, if he finishes that 1-on-1, take nothing away from the save from Bono, but if he finishes that 1-on-1 against Toronto, it's 3-1 with 5 minutes left, and that game's over. So
look, Joseph had a miss.
Sure,
Almiron had a miss. I think a couple other. I think Villalba had a chance and he missed. So it's not like it's just him. But
to go to his goal scoring, he's got. 4 of those goals are penalties.
Right.
He's 4 for 5 on penalties this year, which actually it evens out on perfectly for XG, because XG counts a penalty as 0.8 when they're factored in.
Right.
This is the way MLS factors it in. Not all statisticians do it this way, but MLS factors it in at 0.8. So at being 4 out of 5, that actually averages out perfectly.
That is 80%.
Perfectly for him. So So taking those away, he's basically scored 4 goals from open play, 4 or 5. I don't know how many goals is it 9 he scored this season, or
I think it's 8, right?
Is it?
I think it's 8.
Okay.
I want to say it's 8.
Do some research.
But either way, like that is just not good. Not good.
Again, we're not asking him to play differently because he does so
Right.
much more than just trying to score goals. That wasn't even a part of the repertoire of that wasn't the whole reason he was brought over here, to score goals. Last year, it just
8
seemed,
goals, correct?
Yeah, last year almost seemed like we got. It's almost like last year was the outlier so far. It's only been 2 seasons, so I can't technically say that. But it almost seems like last year was the outlier. Either last year was the outlier or this year's the outlier.
I mean, this year he's taken over 100 shots. He leads the league in shots
That's the
taken.
thing. He's averaging,
but they just haven't been great.
he's averaging 4.4 a game. Joseph's averaging 2.9. I mean, it's really incredible. But I do sometimes, and I think this is one area where I would legitimately criticize him. I think he looks to shoot a little too early sometimes, particularly from distance.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think we've seen that playmaking part of his game kind of go away a little bit this season in the final third, and we're seeing him look to pull from distance a little bit more.
I wrote this down on a napkin in regards to
That's a good sign.
Because I didn't have paper. I wrote Almiron desperate to score ?
I think so.
That's what it seems like.
I think so.
When he takes these shots from outside the box, it just looks like he's desperate to score, desperate to feel that crowd again, desperate to have that moment. And it would make sense. I mean, if you think about it that way, it makes sense as to why he's taking these shots from so far, why he gets upset when he misses, especially some of these easy ones.
I think you're right. I think he cares a lot. Like, I think he's like desperate. He's desperate for that feeling of like the fan admiration of, just wanting that adulation. I think he feeds off of it. And I think like the more it doesn't come off for him, like it compounds on itself, the worse it gets. The more he wants it, the more he's going to kind of like, make maybe poor decisions from where he shoots because he's trying to.
Because if you're looking at Almiron as a scout from Europe, again, you're not looking just at how many goals he's scoring, because that's not like we said, that's not going to be a super big part of his game in Europe anyway. I mean, it's going to be asked that he, score a couple goals, yeah, but it's not like he's going to be asked to be Joseph Martinez at the next level. But you look at those moments that he's missing, or the types of goals that he's missing, and the shot selection he has, and that's obviously got to be a negative, huge negative right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think his value's probably dropped this year.
Oh, definitely, because he's definitely not the same player as last year. And again, that's why I wonder is like it's going to be real bad for Almiron if last year was the outlier.
From a goal scoring
from a purely production standpoint,
it's possible.
His XG change, and it's not, as you mentioned, is still his and Joseph's are still 1-2 in MLS. So I mean, like, he's still performing. I think part of the reason is his value might be dropping is just because now, like, he's made it explicitly known that he wants to be playing in Europe next year. It really lowers the place from where Atlanta United is negotiating from.
Lowers that and elevates the expectations of a player like him.
Mm-hmm.
He's supposed to be playing great. He's supposed to be playing at the top level if he wants to go to Europe.
And, if you look at it from Atlanta United's perspective, I think if you were to identify, you guys may disagree, if you were to identify one shortcoming of one individual player that has had the most detrimental effect to Atlanta United this season, it might be his finishing. And that's just to show how important scoring goals is. That he's doing everything else so well, but
I haven't even thought about the games that we have drawn or given up the lead.
If you tack
how many moments he's had that he's missed, easy moments like he had against Toronto.
If you tack on, and say he's level with his XG expectation this year. If he has scored 14 goals, that's 6 more goals. That's surely 2-3 matches maybe where you're able to gain points where you dropped him. Obviously, speculating kind of unscientifically, but I haven't seen any sort of statistical disparity for any other individual in Atlanta United's roster that would cause such a detriment to the team.
Right. Yeah.
And again, it's unfair in a way because it just shows that how important goals are, that he can do everything else so well. But it's really a shocking how poorly he's finished. And it's not just something that we're seeing. It's something that's showing up in the numbers as well.
Yeah.
And for how poorly he's finished, he's also helped create Joseph as one of the best goal scorers of all time. So it's not like, we're just trying to talk about, some of the
This
things.
is specifically when it comes to the moments, when
high in front of goal,
XG,
high leverage, high
XG
positions.
shots that he's just
Well,
shanking.
it just shows you how valuable those moments are, because you look at someone like Joseph, who has 26 goals, he gets involved in the build-up, but doesn't contribute a ton to the rest of the game. But yet the fact that he scored 26 goals shows how high his value is, how well he's done. Meanwhile, Miron does so much more than Joseph front to back just because of his role. Yet, since he hasn't had the finishing touch, it's been a huge.
How many goals have started on the runs of Almiron on the ball?
Well,
in the defensive third, he just goes on a run all the way up the field, finds Joseph, finds
there
whoever.
were 5 or 6 where he started with the ball deep on the left and basically just driven.
That is a fantastic quality. It almost gets overshadowed by these high XG misses.
I'll make a just random prediction here, because I tend to believe finishing evens out over time. I think we're going to see him score a bunch of goals. I think we're going to see 5+ from him over the remainder of the season, because eventually these shots have to start going in.
Yeah,
they have to.
The law of averages would say they do.
I wonder what else I wrote on my napkins.
You got any phone numbers on there?
What kind of napkins are those?
Chipotle Mexican grill.
Oh, okay. Was that your dinner? Or
no, you don't get phone numbers on the Chipotle napkin.
Is this product placement?
Yeah, it's a new sponsor, the napkin.
As you ball it up.
Anything else we've missed? Any of the other things we need to talk about before we wrap it up? We're about an hour now.
I would just say, going back to the closing out matches thing, I think this is something we touched on a little more in depth on the radio show, but what's most worrying is obviously not just that you're dropping points, but Joe mentioned the Dallas match. You mentioned obviously Toronto. Not only are you conceding goals, you're conceding goals on mistakes in the exact areas where you've tried to kind of shore up. I'll have an article on Dirty South Soccer, plugged it on the radio show, got to get it in tomorrow, that'll basically go through all 3 substitutions Tata made that we discussed tonight over the last 10 minutes, what it meant for the team tactically, and basically the exact areas that he tried to shore up: the right side of the pitch, bringing Vasquez in for Tito, and the center of defensive midfield by moving Laurentowicz forward into that position from center back. Those are the exact situations you got exposed. And in those exact positions. Dallas, you bring on Miles Robinson. He makes you tell your wing backs, fullbacks not to press as high. Those 2 players are caught making mistakes. Your substitute Miles Robinson and your fullback Escobar pressing too high. So not only are we seeing the leads evaporate late, we're seeing errors in the exact spots where Tata Martino is trying to shore things up defensively.
Yeah.
So that's a worry for me. In terms of winning MLS Cup.
Right.
I think this is a really good team, and I think the best is yet to come. I really, really do. We're sitting here. I think it's almost a good thing. We've clearly identified, I think, what the weaknesses are. Almiron hopefully finishes better. You got to close matches out a little better as well. The fullback, whatever happened, we really need a fullback depth, some depth there. But you know what your problems are. They're not that big. They're easily fixable, and you have 10 matches left to do so. So I think we're still yet to see the best Atlanta United, and I think it's coming. I really do.
A lot of people are questioning, and it's not so much about what happened against Toronto. I have a broader question for you guys. A lot of people are questioning Tata and the decision to make subs, and the decision within the subs that he did make, that throwing Vasquez in there, Miles Robinson, taking out Joseph or Mario, whatever.
And drastically changing the shape.
Right.
And yeah.
What are y'all's thoughts? We're a year and 3/4 into 2 seasons. We're almost done with the second season. What are your thoughts on Tata as a coach?
Especially in terms of in-game adjustments.
Good coach, okay coach. Obviously, he has his legacy. But I'm curious because we haven't asked that. We all just assume that he's a great coach.
Right.
But we're seeing a lot of people start questioning, not if he's a good coach, but it's a lot of those decisions. It's not so much is he a good coach, is he a bad coach?
How do you rate him at this point?
Right.
How do you have enough sample size? And
I think he's a great coach. I know that.
I
know it's kind of like it's not like the hottest take to have, but you look at the season. the way he's been able to put this team into a 3-5-2 when there wasn't they were clearly needing a solution after the first game. He got them organized, really did great tactical work there, getting the team flowing and getting great results in that formation. And he's changed it back, so he's done it a couple different ways. He's not only done it in different shapes, but he's done it in a different style in those shapes where, with the 3-5-2, you're a little bit more, you're sitting a little deeper. You're not pressing all over the pitch as much, which is his kind of MO. And then I think, obviously with the Barco thing, that's part of managing as well. And I have to commend him for the way that he's handled it. He hasn't, put the kid gloves on him. I think he's been completely fair about the entire situation. I think I think maybe the one thing I would criticize him for, and it's really tough because it was a tough situation for him to be in, was the stretch run of last season when he was just running with the same starting 11, trying to chase that first round bye to get a little bit of a break for the squad. Maybe that wasn't the wisest decision. Maybe he should have rotated a little more and just kind of maybe concede, basically, trying to get that 2 seed. Right.
And to be fair to him, that's like the stretch that we went through in September is not something that he's ever
European
seen,
team playing in Champions League and a domestic cup at the same time wouldn't have a schedule that congested.
Right, exactly. So, I agree with Joe. I think great coach, world-class manager, and I identified two things as well. And the first one is that last season we saw, he'd been around the team for, camp, so 6 weeks or whatever, and immediately you saw a clear style. You saw a clear identity last year. So he was able to get through quickly to his players, get them organized, let them know what he wants. This season, I think one of the things I point to, other than what Joe brought up, is the road record. I mean, Atlanta is still on pace to set the record for most points on the away from home in MLS, a league that is famous for being tough to go on the road and play. Weird stuff happens. And you're not this consistently good on the road unless you are very well drilled, very organized. You don't do it just on talent because it's hard enough to win on the road, but it's always been tough in MLS. And to me, that's an absolutely shows what type of manager Atlanta have, that they're able to do something. One of the hardest things to do in MLS and do it consistently, win away from home.
And there's one more thing I wanted to add too, and this is a small little anecdote, but I remember at the beginning of last season, Tyrone Mears, who was like 33 years old, was like, I'm learning about football again. I didn't think this would happen. And I just thought that was really interesting that he said, he's like, I'm a veteran. I'm kind of at the end of my career. I didn't think I would be like learning again.
And I think MLS is learning from him almost. I mean, you see a lot of teams, not just tactically, but just copying the Atlanta United model in terms of what types of players they're starting to go after. And then I guess the question about Tata stems from the subs this match.
The subs and some of the decisions he's made in the past. It's starting to question. Well, you just see a lot of questioning on Reddit, on Twitter, on Facebook, and stuff like that. And so I just thought I'd throw it out there. I think he's a great coach as well. I think the big thing for me is how well this team has handled losing Nagby, how they handled, and this was early last year, how they handled losing Joseph.
You lost Barco at the beginning of this season.
You lost Barco. You lost Carmona, and all this happened. Imagine bringing in someone, losing Carmona, someone like Carmona, and then having to really restructure your team last minute and to essentially not miss a beat.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the sign of a good coach.
That's a direct reflection of the manager that you can, one thing I think about is last year when Greg Garza goes out and suddenly Chris McCann's a left back. And he's never even really played there before, His skill set kind of fits that position, but he played it confidently right away. And I think that comes straight from the manager showing confidence, showing faith in him. And that's why we've seen Atlanta United kind of been able to roll with the punches when guys go down.
I think every coach is going to have days where they make bad tactical decisions, or, maybe they should have held this sub a little bit longer. Maybe they should have picked someone else to sub in. but that stuff I think is small compared to the bigger picture of what he does. And I think when you question Tata, I'm not saying you shouldn't ever question him,
of course,
but when you question Tata, just keep in mind that there's a much bigger picture than just again, every coach is going to make bad decisions under the lights every now and then. The best of them do. Everyone does it.
I think
it's just look at the bigger picture and realize that he hits on almost all of them, and the ones that he misses on sometimes you have a spotlight on him.
You could criticize the Vasquez substitution because you are putting in a young player.
Absolutely, I do.
Yeah, but in the end, I think it's way too much to pick something like that out and say this is driving my opinion of Tata Martino, because in the end, the substitution made sense. Practically,
you got people who are yelling at him for not playing Carlton when this is a perfect opportunity to do that. I mean, it's a ton of little things that can build up.
Carlton. Yeah, it's Rob Usry's burner accounts going after him on Twitter. Play Carlton.
You had people last year or even this year, start Romario. You had people who wanted more Vasquez.
Sure. And they'll always get that.
Yeah, you will.
I mean, if you're going to criticize them, the main thing is you can't pick stuff like that out. You have to identify some sort of trend. So you could say we're dropping points late, and we're dropping points with by making mistakes in the areas where Tata's tried to make adjustments. But you can't just say, if Romario Williams or Andrew Carlton had been starting. I mean, I think that's particularly with the way the team has performed. If you're really going to criticize Tata Martino, it's got to be something that's happening repetitively.
And we didn't even mention best dressed coach in MLS.
Absolutely.
Best dressed coach, of course. Absolutely best dressed. Just
another notch on his belt.
It's really bold to tie a sweater around your neck when you're wearing like a tracksuit.
In the middle of summer.
Indoors.
I love it. I freaking love it.
What was the first game? Was it the New York game that we drew at home? Was that the first game he did it?
I think
because he hasn't taken it off since.
I'm gonna ask him about it.
You should. What is that about?
I don't know.
He started doing it, right?
Yeah.
Maybe it went to his head when he won best dress.
He's like, keeps it on.
I'm accessorized now.
He keeps it like that during the press conferences. Yeah. Unless it's super cold. I think I've seen him take it off a couple times and actually wear it. But
I don't know. All right.
It's hilarious.
I think that does it for this episode.
My leg is falling asleep.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything else? Anything else we didn't cover?
You can Twitter, get at me, Twitter, JoshB914.
JPatrick200.
Come on, Eric.
Mine's Eric G. Quintana.
We got
Eric G. Quintana. Follow the podcast at MOTS Podcast. Email us, motspodcast@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook. Smash that subscribe button. Smash it.
Don't click it.
Give us a like. Hit the bell for all the notifications now that we're on the YouTube.
More information in the description. I just like to say that.
I don't have that yet.
I'd always like that's
TBD.
Doesn't matter. I just wanted to say it.
Follow us on Facebook. Make sure you're.
Do we get to call ourselves YouTubers now?
No, I'm going to call myself a YouTuber. 5 subscribers. I'm there.
Wow.
When we get to 1 million, I'll get they give you like a little plaque with the YouTube or the YouTube button.
Really?
Yeah, they give you a plaque. It's like a silver, gold. I don't know what it is.
All right, folks, we can make history together. You can get us this plaque.
1 million.
Start 1 subscriber at a time.
Let's do it. Make sure you're following Dirty South Soccer for all the latest in rumor news, transfer news, injury news. I really hope we've had all the injuries I hope our allotment of injuries for this year is over.
Yeah, we've had a ton of them.
All right. That'll do it for us. Until next time. See you later, Atlanta.